Hey, it's Tara with Reiki on the Run, and today I'm going to do the second part of the series I'm doing on change. A lot of us have been thrown into some change or would like to change, need to change. And so the next part I thought should have been the reasons why it's good to change, but every time I would sit down to write that video, I would put down lists that should be on or items that should be on this list, and I kept coming back to this. So I guess this is what we need to get to first, because usually I'm able to write very easily, and I felt like this should be third. But today we're going to talk about how to change, things that you can do to help yourself along in this change. And some of them might seem like, how is that going to help me with my change? And if I realize it's one of those, I'll try to explain how it will help indirectly. The first thing I want to say, though, is that it's good to understand that you have to reprogram yourself. Everything we do, about 95% of what we do, is out of habit. It's subconscious. It's just the things we've always done before, and so you really have to go in there and intentionally change the way you think, the way you act, for things to actually change. And that's hard because your body will freak out, like I talked about in the last video. By the way, I'll put the playlist down below if you didn't see the first video I did about why change sucks so much. But your body will freak out. I know I learned that from running. When I was a runner, my mind would actually give out before my body. So a lot of this stuff is mental. Your body will start freaking out about change because it's not what it's used to, and that your mind is just like, no, I want to be comfortable. Go back. Let's do what we were doing before. So just understand that you need to kind of unmemorize your limits and your failures, and try not to make any excuses for your change. So also, before we get to the list, I want to say this too. I talked about in the last video how there's generally two types of change. Change that we want to make in our lives to make our lives better, and then change that we are thrown into seemingly without a choice, that there's nothing that we can do, and that's just where we are. And for that part, for when you get thrown into change, I used to always tell my boys, because they grew up near water, on the beach usually, and we used to talk about swimming and drowning, and people drown in the panic. The drown is in the panic. I would remind them that you know how to float. You know how to float. You can always float. The drowning comes when you start freaking out and expending all your energy and just wearing yourself out. And it's kind of the same with the change. You really got to just lean into it. You've got to not panic and freak out and just float. You can even take someone else out if you are panicking and drowning, if you've taken any life-saving courses, even like with scuba diving. And sometimes you have to let people go, because if they're going to take you out too, you can't save them if they're panicking and taking you out. But you could actually just put one finger on someone in the water, or just put your hand on their shoulder, and you can float. So the drowning is in the struggle. The drowning is in the panic. So if you are being thrown into change, just do everything you can to just float, just chill, just ride it out. Because if it's something that you're being thrown into, the struggling is not going to help. Pain is real, but suffering is something that you do to yourself, that you continue to allow it to get to you. And usually we're in survival mode. Like 70% of the time we live in fight or flight. And we need to realize that we're not in any danger. And all that stress causes disease, and so we just have to chill. Okay, that's it. So I'm going to get to this list, and I think it's going to be pretty long, so I think there's going to be two parts to this list, because I think once you get to 30 minutes, nobody wants to listen to me any longer than that. So I'm just going to stop when it hits around 30. So the first one I have is look to the wanted result and mentally rehearse the outcome you want. Really important to stop looking at what you have, the situation you're in now, or what you used to have, or what you think you've lost or you might lose, and look ahead to the outcome you want, and mentally run it through your head. Like if you're thinking about your favorite scene in a movie, play it in your head like that. Play out the scene of how you want the outcome to be, and continually do that several times throughout the day. Just mentally rehearse the outcome that you want, the way you want it to be, and think about that more often than you think about what you've lost or what you might lose. And this kind of ties in with the next one, is don't focus on any losses, because that's just going to keep you, if you are looking at what you've lost, you're going to be in a sad state, an upset state, an agitated state. If you're focusing on a loss, you're going to be in anything other than a good mood. You're not going to be putting out good energy. You know you get back what you put out. So don't focus on what's gone. The next one is celebrate the small changes like it's the biggest thing ever. So that's really important. Sometimes we have huge changes that we need to make, and it seems difficult, but when you have small victories, when you change little things, celebrate them, because it makes you feel accomplished. Don't think, oh, that's just something little, it's not a big deal. No, it is a big deal. Any change that you can make towards what you want is going to be a victory, and it should be celebrated. So enjoy those things, praise yourself for them, and that's going to keep you moving in that direction that you need to go and feeling good about it. The next one is don't pigeonhole yourself. You aren't just that way or just that person. I talked about this in the last video about how a lot of times it's hard to change when you are surrounded by people who have pegged you as a certain way. If you've been a certain way all your life, you've done things a certain way and acted a certain way, and now all of a sudden you want to do something different. It's really hard to change that, but you can do that to yourself. You can pigeonhole yourself and, oh, I'm not that kind of person. Don't do that. Anybody can change at any moment. You can change who you are. You can change your personality. If you're, a jerk sometimes, if you don't let love in, if you, whatever it is, you want to change it. You don't have to be the same way you've been your whole life. That's what change is. That's what it's all about. So don't get caught in, oh, I'm this, that's just how I am. I'm just this way. And, no. What do you want to be? How do you want to be? How do you want to act? What change do you want to make? You can do it. You don't have to remain this way. I always say that about politically too. Some people will think, oh, well, my parents voted this way. I've always voted this way. My grandparents voted this way. And maybe you're thinking, I don't necessarily agree with this stuff. And you're allowed to change your ideas. It's called growth. It's called evolution, evolving. So don't look at change as such a negative thing. Like, oh, I've done this my whole life, I can't change now. Yeah, you can. You can, and you should. So don't pigeonhole yourself. The next one is don't focus on setbacks and backslides. So change is not linear. You're not just going to start getting better, and everything's going to be perfect. No, you're going to start going this way, and then you're going to backslide. Something's going to set you back. You're going to go back to your old ways, or something bad is going to happen, something you can't control, whatever. Don't focus on that. Don't let it stump you. Don't let it slow you down. Look at it. If there's anything you can learn going forward, let it be okay. But don't let it be so okay that you do it all the time. You know what I mean? Don't make it so okay that backslides are something that become routine. It's like people in recovery, 12-step programs. They will say relapse doesn't have to be a part of recovery. A lot of people relapse, but you don't have to. And if you do, it's okay, move on, but don't keep doing it. You know what I mean? Don't beat yourself up if you have a backslide, if something goes awry, but don't give yourself permission to just keep doing it constantly. Don't make it that okay. The next one is be contemplative. This is really important, and I try really hard not to say the M word. meditation because people run, so I'm not going to say that. But it's really important to slow down, to go within. People today are so connected to their phones, social media, other people. I mean, some people cannot sit still if they aren't texting someone or looking something up or having the TV on or even, the radio. And they just can't stand to be quiet with their thoughts. And it's really important. One of the biggest reasons meditation for me is so good because it gives me insights. When I'm sit and be quiet and stop freaking out about stuff in the future or worrying about stuff I did in the past, and I actually quiet my mind, I get a lot of insights. That's where I get all my ideas for videos, is when I meditate. I could do it every day. I could meditate every day and I could get a new video every day. I just don't. But it's super important to take the time out from other people just to calm your mind. And meditation's really hard if you haven't done it, because your body wants to get up and do things, and your mind is like, oh, this is stupid. So I like to sometimes listen to, I have really gotten into the wisdom chill step, I guess you might call it. It has the kind of chill step background music, but it has Terrence McKenna, Alan Watts, things like that, Neville Goddard lessons, stuff like that, wisdom teachings with chill step behind it. So they'll be talking a little bit and say something, and then it'll just be music for a little while. And so that's really helpful if you're not a big meditator, because it gives you something to listen to and think about, and then you get that little bit of time that's just music. And that's a good way to train your mind to be still, and just put your phone down for 10 minutes and just listen to something like that. Or maybe you like a certain, classical music. Sometimes I like to listen to classical when I'm working. You might like that. I just found recently a guy called Akira the Dawn, Akira, and he has a whole album called Meaning Wave. And it's kind of the same, where it has more motivational speaker type people talking and music behind it. And I really like that, and I think that's a real good way to be contemplative and to just sit and be with your own thoughts and allow those thoughts to come in. Everything bombards your head when you try to get quiet, but let it to go out. Come in and go out. Don't start worrying about things, but you'll be surprised at how many insights, when you calm your mind, will come in. And you can't figure out a solution to something when you're thinking about the problem, which is why I've always thought that groups work when you're having I can't think of the name. I've been out of the corporate world for so long, but when you have a group of people brainstorming, because you're not focusing on the problem the entire time. When someone starts to talk, you have that moment, that break, that anticipation that this might be the answer. So you get in that energy of, oh, this might be the solution. And so when you're in that relaxed state and not focusing on problems, solutions are a different energy match to problems. So if you're in that matched energy of solution instead of problem, the solution will come to you. So when you're able to calm your mind just for a little while, and you don't have to expect that all your solutions are coming to you. Don't go into it like that. Just allow whatever's going to come. But take the time to sit and be quiet. Let your mind be quiet in whatever way you can. And I think you'll be amazed at the insights that will come, the ideas that you haven't thought of, because you're just chilled out and not stressing about everything and thinking about all the problems in the world and talking to people and all that stimulation and input that we all do during the day. Okay, so the next one, it's really important. Mourn the loss. Feel the emotion. I'm not one to usually say, be in that feeling, that negative feeling, because I very much believe that when you stay in that horrible feeling, that's what you're going to attract. But I also don't think it's good to stuff the emotion. stuff the loss. You might be thrown into a change and it sucks, kind of like what I'm going through right now. It half sucks and it's half I'm looking forward to it. It's a very weird thing. But there's a loss associated with it, and sometimes it pops up. In the beginning it was a few times a day, now it's like once a day, and I'm sure soon it won't even be every day. But when it happens, I have to feel the loss. I have to let it up and out. A lot of times we start feeling emotion, we start feeling the bad thing, and we're like, no, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to backtrack, and we stuff it, and that causes problem. That keeps that energy down here. It keeps it stuffed. You don't let it out. You're just avoiding it. Let it out. Mourn the loss. It's okay, but let it out. Don't marinate in it. When I think about this change that I'm going through and it wells up inside of me, I usually cry because I'm emotional. I'll cry until it's gone. I don't sit there and heave and lay down and get in the fetal and woe is me. I just let it naturally come out. What's there? I feel it. I sit in it. I allow it. And then I'm done. When it's done, it's done. I don't need to keep thinking of all these things in my head of how horrible it is and like I said, marinating in that sadness. But it does need to come out. And there is a loss associated with change. I remember even quitting smoking. I quit and I felt like I lost my best friend because I would go outside and smoke if I was bored, or when I'd have coffee after I'd eat, breaks on work. I'd go with the other smokers most of my life, and there is a loss when you change. There's something that you're losing, and I don't think that ignoring that is a good idea. Acknowledge it, feel the loss, and then move on. Okay, we don't want to stuff the sadness of the loss. All right, let's go to the next one. Change things up. Change things up. I did say it right. It sounded funny. Change things up. New routes, new music, bike or walk instead of drive. Go to new restaurants. Try new food. Get off of autopilot. Get out of your comfort zone. It's good to do new things altogether. And I'm just going to tie this in with my next one. Do new, intentional, positive things. Like I am rededicating myself to learning Spanish, because my Spanish, for as long as I've lived in Mexico, is at basic / intermediate, and it needs to be better for as long as I've lived here. So doing new things, taking different routes, it's gonna condition your body to change in different ways. And it's good to get your body used to changes. It doesn't have to be this big change that you're facing. It's gonna cause new pathways in your brain. I'll talk about that in my Why It's Good video. It's gonna make change kind of normal. It's gonna make it seem like it's the next step, and you want to get used to change. You want to get used to things being different. And so, that could be as simple as driving a different way to work. I know that sounds so silly, but it's true. You get on autopilot and go to work. You can sometimes get to work and not even remember driving there. Change it up. Walk some, like I said, try different foods. And then the new intentional positive things, like take up dancing. I'm gonna take up Spanish. When you do things like that, it takes your time away from worrying about this change that you're having to deal with, and you get positive reinforcement, and you want that, because it's really easy when you're going through change to just sit around and be miserable about it because it's hard, or because you don't want it to change, or whatever reason. So doing new things, trying new things, going new places, changing your life in good ways, take a course. There's so many things, even if you don't have money, there's so many things you can learn on YouTube, anything, pretty much anything you want to learn. And there's so many colleges now that offer free courses. I think MIT has a whole slew of free courses that you can take. There's really not much of an excuse of why you can't better yourself in some way. Take up something new. Money shouldn't be an issue. Start walking. Anyway, that's the next thing. On to the next thing. Don't confide in others or concern yourself with them. So everybody has their agenda. I talked about this in the last video. Everybody has their agenda of where they need you to be and what they need you to be doing. So anytime you talk to anyone, even if they love you more than anyone on the planet, it's your mom, your spouse, whatever, they're going to have their agenda. Obviously, if you have a spouse, there's some things you need to talk to your spouse about if it's going to be a major change. I'm not saying hide things from your spouse. But just be mindful of who you confide in, because like I said, everyone has their agenda, and then it's really easy to get defeated and decide to not do something because the people you love will talk you out of it. I talked about that in the last video of how they'll have your best interests in mind, and they just don't want you to get hurt, so they might try to talk you out of it. So just keep things to yourself when possible, and don't share. A lot of times, like when I first started writing my books, my workbooks, check them out. They're linked below if you're interested. Really, really good. I keep meaning to bring one with me when I do my videos so I can show you, but really, really good. If you want to change, really, really good workbook. Unfortunately, someone just asked the other day if I could put it on Kindle. Unfortunately, I can't put it on Kindle. If I could give it all to you for free, I would. But you write in the workbook so that it wouldn't work. Anyway, but when I first started writing my books and workbooks, I didn't tell a soul because I didn't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Same with when I decided to move to Mexico. I kept it to myself. I told my ex-husband because I was taking our kids. But I didn't blast it to everybody because I didn't want to hear how I was going to get kidnapped. I didn't want to hear how that was a crazy idea. I don't want everyone's biased opinions. I'm going to make decisions, and if I want the input of someone, I'll ask. But I've learned I generally don't, because not too many people are super supportive. People don't want to act supportive, but people are worried about things more. Everybody's so worried about failure and losing, and nobody wants to get out of their comfort zone. So it's just not something that I choose to do, and I think it's a good idea to just kind of keep those things to yourself, because people definitely have their agenda. So the next one, stop telling the story of your past and tell the story of your future. And that would be to yourself and to others. And understand that you're not the sum of your past mistakes. Okay? Don't start your story to other people with how you failed in life or how much you suck, or don't tell yourself that story. Don't keep saying, oh, I can't do this, I suck at this, I suck at this, I've screwed up in my life. Stop telling that tired ass story, okay? Because what you believe and what you say, you speak things into existence. And if you continually tell people what a shit you are, and people do it, self-deprecating is kind of, when you say things like that, you're trying to be almost maybe be humble. I don't think that people realize what they're doing, but I never think that when people talk negatively about themselves, they're trying to gain something. Maybe they are, but usually I think it's a way to try to be relatable and say, well, I have these faults too, and I'm not a perfect person, and try to not boast about yourself. But that really gets you in a bad way when you're constantly talking about what a horrible person you are, what horrible things you've done. We've all messed up. That's what life is. You come in and you have things done to you, and you do things to people, and you grow from them, and you change, which is what all this is about. But you got to stop telling that story. Don't make that your story anymore. That's not who you are anymore. You're now who you're working on becoming. That's the story you want to tell to yourself. That's who I am. Okay, stop running those mistakes. And let me say, I can go back to 4th grade and feel like shit about things that I've done. I mean, I can go way back and just rail on myself all day. I've made so many mistakes. So many mistakes. I don't even want to think about if I could go back and change things. You can't. But it's not helpful to anyone. It's not helpful. And I don't really care about anybody else. I care about you. And it's most hurtful to you. So stop thinking about those things you've done wrong. Stop telling that story. Tell your new story. Who you are now. And where you're going. Okay? The next one, realize fear is not real. I've talked about this before, but it's always worth talking about. You know, we fear change. We fear it for many reasons. Failure, what it's going to look like, who we're going to lose, all kinds of reasons. I talked about in that last video about what stops us from changing. And you just have to realize that fear isn't real. You know, that's what anxiety is. Anxiety, when you have anxiety, it's because you're thinking about things in the future that haven't happened yet and worrying about them, usually, you know, projecting out maybe the worst possible outcome. You know, I've had full-on conversations with people that I think I might have in the future, and I just run these conversations through my head over and over and over again about how it's going to be when I meet up with this person or when I talk to them, and I'll just have these conversations, and they're never good, and they never end up that way. But I spend so much time worrying about how it's going to go and fearing it's going to go really, really bad, and that does nothing. That's the worst. The highest vibration you can be in is love, and the lowest is fear. Shame, guilt, fear, all those. But fear's not real. When you're afraid of something, unless you're being chased by a lion, fear's not real. You're scared of an outcome that doesn't exist yet. You're scared of an outcome, and that's not a reality. That's not here. You're worried about a thing that doesn't exist. So really important to kind of squash when you start fearing, when you start worrying, when you start getting anxiety about how this thing is going to end up. Just stop. It's not real. It hasn't happened. Stop focusing on that possibility that what bad might happen. Like I said in the last video, focus on the possibility of it all working out really, really well the way you want it to. Okay, I think I'm gonna stop here. 27 minutes is a long time, and I look like I got through half of my list. Anyway, I hope these things help. I hope some of them spark an idea or something that maybe you've been doing, and now that you can try something a little different. And don't forget, like I said in the beginning, if you're being thrown into change, that drowning happens in the struggle and the panic. So just relax. Allow things to go. I think we hold ourselves back too when we are trying to hold on to maybe an old relationship or an old way of life or this old thing that is changing, and we're trying to hold on to it even though we can't, and that doesn't allow us to reach over and grab the good, better thing, you know, for all those reasons of why we think we don't want to change. But relax, go into it, practice these things. I'll be back with more soon. If you are interested in my workbooks, these videos are great. You might have some epiphanies and some aha moments, and they're great. But the real change comes when you put the work in. You know, this little video high might just last a few minutes, and I mean, if you put these things into practice, it will help. But my workbooks are really, really helpful. I get people that tell me quite often how much it's changed their life, and that's really, really exciting. And also, you know, these videos are free, and if you've ever taken a free course and a paid course, you know that you'll do the work when you invest money in yourself. So they're not very expensive anyway. But when you pay for something, you'll usually do the work. So get them if you'd like. If you'd like a one-on-one session with me, that's linked down below too. I can be an outside perspective somewhere, someone outside of your circle, help figure out where you're stuck, help you get unstuck. I'd love to do that. And all that information is below. And if anybody hasn't told you today, I love you, and I will see you next time.